Well, good morning. Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, the 9th of December. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Um, we've got a great study ahead of us. We've got Moses still on the road to the promised land, trying to find a route and not finding people that'll let these million people, whoever, come through their property through their kingdom so that they can get to the promised land. But before we get there, let's just do this. Let's go over to birthdays. Today is the 9th, and we have one birthday today, Bobby Williams. Happy birthday, Bobby. I'm going to close that out. I need to tell you a story. 25, 30 years ago, I was a civil engineer, and I purchased a program that you put data points into the program and it draws contours. And it was a very, very expensive program. It was eventually bought out by AutoCAD, and they included this into a program called CivilCAD. And I had the opportunity to purchase that at a discount, but I was just getting ready to go into the seminary, and I said, I'll never use this again. So I didn't purchase it. Now, you're probably wondering why I'm bringing this up, because it was a very expensive program. It probably 30 years ago took hundreds of thousands of hours for people to develop and debug and market this program. It was very expensive. My recollection is back 25 years ago, this program was probably $2,000, maybe $3,000. And probably every civil engineer in the country purchased it. So this company that was making this program probably recouped money, but they probably spent, I don't know, $5 to $10 million developing this program. And last night, I was able to use artificial intelligence to replicate this program and do exactly what it did in about an hour. And this was a tragic realization to me, which is that rapidly AI is going to transform everything. I read a comment Sunday night. I read a comment on Sunday night from one of the places that I was reading that said that in the post-scarcity economy, and what do we mean by post-scarcity? Once robots and artificial intelligence are able to move goods and services and design and develop goods and services, the cost of them is going to go down dramatically. And so what Elon Musk calls the age of abundance, the artificial intelligence world calls it a post-scarcity economy, which means that food, water, shelter, clothing, transportation, all the things that we struggle now to get will be readily available and probably, for all practical purposes, will probably be available for free. And the question, and I didn't realize how rapid that was going to come until last night, because if one single session of a medium intelligence person can hop onto artificial intelligence and do the things that would have taken $5-10 million 40 years ago, and now we can do it with just one session in artificial intelligence, it means that we are going to rapidly get to this future. It's not going to happen incrementally. My first personal computer I purchased in 1986, so maybe 40 years ago. And that was long before the internet, just the ability to do my finances on this home computer was a huge, incredible thing. Because I didn't need to have pencil and paper and, and tabular stuff. And, do you remember when we used to have the checkbook? And then at the end of the month, we would balance our checkbook at the end in that register. And we'd know exactly how much money is in our checkbook. That all became automated in the mid-'80s. And I purchased a program called Quicken, which automated the checkbook. I mean, that's all it did was automated the checkbook. And now 40 years later, we have this whole new technology called artificial intelligence and robotics. And it is really literally very, very rapidly going to change the world in which we live. I believe we will get into this post-scarcity environment definitely in the next 40 years, but I'm thinking that it might be in the next 10 years. And I just spent this morning talking to artificial intelligence, asking, what does that mean? Like, how do we find our meaning and purpose when the struggles don't get away from? I mean, there are no longer struggles. I mean, the part of the human condition is struggling, and we kind of we investigated. Me and the AI investigated a bunch of questions. One of them is, if you've ever met somebody that becomes addicted to something, has an addiction, their spiritual and emotional growth stops at that point. And there are people in this world who are addicted, let's say, to fentanyl, and you see them; they're a shell of what they could be. Now, why are they addicted? Did they just try it once and become addicted, or were they stressed in their life and became addicted? I mean, the challenges of the future are going to be dramatically different than the challenges that we've experienced in this pre-scarcity economy, in the scarcity economy. Well, once we get to the post-scarcity economy, the world is going to change dramatically. The things that are going to be scarce are going to be natural resources, energy. One person said energy will be scarce. So oil, energy, natural gas, coal, land, the things that are not replaceable, those are going to be scarce. And the question will be, how does that even play into the future? Like, how does this, what should we be teaching our grandchildren now so that they can thrive in their 50s, 60s, and 70s when they live in this future? And that is a big question. That is a huge question. And it's one that we are asking at our school, our preschool and our school, because we want to prepare our kids for that future. I asked AI if the teachings of Jesus are going to be helpful, and AI said, absolutely. Absolutely. Gives you grounding. It gives you faith. Jesus talked a lot about how we should, as Christians, live with a philosophy of abundance. And if you live as a philosophy of abundance from God coming into your life, then the things you concentrate your effort on change. And we can continue to teach that because we'll be living in an age of abundance, which Jesus said, remember, one of the parables that came up with was the feeding of the 5,000. I mean, that's an age of abundance. If you don't have to worry about food because God can miraculously, plentifully supply food, then what is it that you concentrate on? Well, you concentrate on yourself. You concentrate on faith. You concentrate on leading. You concentrate on making sure that that you are leading yourself in a way that is God-honoring and God-pleasing. And we can do that in the age of scarcity, and we can do that in the age of abundance. And maybe that's one of the things that we should teach our children. Anyway, that was a huge rabbit hole. I didn't anticipate going down that rabbit hole, but I am completely blown away that I was able to do in about 2 hours last night what probably would have taken me 2 hours before, but the tools that I used, instead of a very, very expensive program that I purchased 40 years ago, or 30, 35 years ago. How long ago? 25 years ago. I was able to use a readily available program on the internet for free. And that is just absolutely mind-blowing to me. The world's changing, and it's changing rapidly. And it's a future that is absolutely mind-blowing. is the only word I can come up with. All right. Let's get into our study. We did the birthdays, yes. Let's go ahead and get into our study. We're in Numbers chapter 21. And we see the Israelites trying to get to the promised land. And they wanted to go through the land of Edom. And the king of Edom said, absolutely no way, you're not going to go. So now they're trying to, and then Aaron died. And now we have Moses trying to figure out how to go to the promised land. And so we're going to start reading on chapter 21, verse 1. When the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in the Negev, heard that Israel was coming along the road to Atharim, he attacked the Israelites and captured some of them. Then Israel made this vow to the Lord: if you will deliver these people into our hands, we will totally destroy their cities. The Lord listened to Israel's plea and gave the Canaanites over to them. They completely destroyed them in their towns, so that the place was named Hormah. So we're talking about Cana. Let's see if I can pull up a map just to kind of show where we are. Here we go. Right here. Yeah, so we're south. Here's Mount Sinai. They came up Mount Sinai, and they're at kind of in this region here, I think, the desert of Paran. Yeah, they're in the desert of Paran. And they want to go to the promised land. And it says here, the way of the Atharim is like right here. Well, they're Kadesh Barnea, Mount Hor. Yeah, they're right here. They want to go up this way to get in. This is Philistine. This is where David fought the Philistines. So the promised land has kind of come over here. And they start on this road, and that's where the king of Aram says, no, you're not going to go through my land. And he hears that they're on their way. And so he sends an army, and they capture some people. And the Israelites pray to God and say, hey, we're on our way, and we've got this invading force that's not going to let us. Will you help us out? Now, first of all, this is what they should have done before. When the king of Edom said, you are not going to take this way, that king's highway, and that's what this looks like. Remember, they're at Mount Hor. They wanted to take the king's highway to get into the promised land. Instead, they're going to kind of go this direction, and this is Philistine area here. So they're going to go here between the Dead Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. They're going to kind of go this direction, and that's where they're running into a problem. They should have asked God for help back then, and they didn't. At least in Scripture, they didn't. So this is a good lesson for them, because they pray to God. And God listens to their plea, and he destroys their city completely and their towns. So the place was named Hormah. So where the king of Arad is, this now is called Hormah. And they still are on their way to the promised land. All right, let's, this one. Oh, yeah, sorry about that. So let me do that. That'll help a little bit. I'm going to move this up just a hair. And now we're going to talk about the bronze snake. All right. They traveled from Mount Hor along the route to the Red Sea to go around Edom, but the people grew impatient on the way. They spoke against God and against Moses and said, why have you brought us out of Egypt and to die into the wilderness? There's no bread, there's no water, and we detest this miserable food. Well, what is this miserable food? That's the manna that God's continuing to provide for them. Beggars can't be choosers, but in the world, there's the food that's available that sustains you. Like, if all you had to eat, let's say, was something totally disgusting, you could stop, and not eat until you get to the point where you're starving. And then at that point, I think there's a psychological trigger that happens in your brain that says it's either eat this disgusting food or die. And most people don't want to die, so they would eat the disgusting food. I remember reading a story about a man whose digestive system was not, he couldn't eat any protein. This is a true story. The proteins that were available, all commercially, were not, this was a number of years ago, were not, it destroyed his stomach. And it turned out that the one protein that he was able to eat was roaches, the protein that existed in roaches. And so he would purchase roaches that were biologically grown in a lab. They were clean. They didn't have any diseases on them. They were fed and grown to an age, and then they were shipped to him where he killed them and he ate them. And if I remember correctly, too, he had to eat them alive. He had to crunch them and then eat them. This was a documentary I saw a number of years ago. And it turned out that because of that, he had implants in his mouth. He enlarged his incisors so that he could bite into the cockroach and eat them. And I remember watching this documentary about this guy and thinking, what kind of psychological change has to go open up in your mind to be able to order cockroaches to arrive in your house, and then you eat these cockroaches with your teeth, crunching them alive. But if that's the only thing that sustains you, now today they probably would be able to generate a protein powder or something that would work. But I mean, this was a number of years ago. I think I watched this, I don't know, maybe 30 years ago or something like that. So a lot of technology has happened since then. But one of the things that the question isn't, I mean, obviously they're not starving. God is providing them food, and they should be grateful for the food that God has provided. Why are they not grateful? Because it's the same food over and over again. They're sick and tired of that food. They want variety. They want spices. They want all sorts of different kinds of food, and they don't have it. And so they're complaining. And this is the human condition. Instead of being grateful for what we do have, we complain about what we don't have. And all we truly need to survive is food, shelter, clothing, and love and relationship. I mean, that's all we need. They had all that in abundance, and yet they're not happy because that's the human condition. And when we think about what the future will look like when the age of scarcity disappears, which I think is going to happen in the next 10 to 20 years, honestly. I honestly believe that food, water, clothing, shelter, nice food, nice clothing, nice shelter, all of these things will be adequately abundant in 20 years. What will we complain about? And I know what you're saying is you're saying, well, why would we even complain? We'll have all this stuff, because the human condition is to complain. If you compare our life today with all the things that we have based even 100 years ago, let's say 200 years ago, as people were moving into Arizona and living off the land and trying to ranch and cattle and dig wells, and they didn't have any, steam shovels to dig wells. They had to dig a well by hand with sticks. And they had to do that just to get water so they could survive. If you think about that time period compared today, they would look at us today and say, how in the world can you not even possibly be just so grateful for everything that the world has provided? But we're not. We always want more. And we always want more and more. The average debt of the average person in the United States today is outrageous because we want more and more and more. We can't live with less and less and less. It's completely true. It will be interesting to see what that's going to look like in the future. Anyway, the people complain. They complain that all they have is manna. So what happens? Verse 8. So then the Lord sent venomous snakes. I'm sorry, verse 6. Then the Lord sent venomous snakes among them. They bit the people, and many Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, "We sinned when we spoke against the Lord and against you. Pray that the Lord will take the snakes away from us." So Moses prayed for the people. The Lord said to Moses, "Make a snake and put it on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live." So Moses made a bronze snake and put it up on a pole. And then when anyone was bitten by a snake and looked at the bronze snake, they lived. So this is the famous pole that Moses put the bronze snake on. And it's very, very similar to the snake, the dual snakes that are in Roman and Greek mythology, which is the symbol of healing today. If you've ever seen a pole with two snakes on it, and that's the symbol of medical stuff and healing. That goes all the way back to the Greco-Roman Empire. But this is previous to that. This is one snake that the Lord had Moses create, and the people looked upon this symbol and they were healed from their snake bites. And let me just see if I can pull up that medical snake pole symbol. Oh no, no, it is dual snakes. No, it's one snake. Oh, that's interesting. It's taking me to LinkedIn. All right, so here we go. So you have the caduceus, which is the medical Greco-Roman Empire symbol of healing in the medical community. And then you have Moses's snake, which may have looked something like this or something else. And I guess this whole article is on the significance and the symbology of all that. I might have to read that at some point. And it's on LinkedIn of all places. There are so many social media sites. You can't keep track of them all. And if you want to talk to somebody on that particular site, you have to create a login, and then they send you notifications, hey, somebody's trying to reach you on this site, and then you go to that site and you talk to them. And there's so many out there. In China, they all get combined into one social media platform. I think it's called WeChat, WeChat. And I'm not into centralized government, but I would be very, very much into a centralized social media platform where all of these different ways of communicating are all joined together. So I'm hoping that someday Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Snapchat and X, Twitter, all of these will come together and join into one platform that you log in with one login, and you get access to all the different messages in different formats, but it's all one login. I'm looking forward to that day. And maybe with AI, we'll get to that day. All right. So let's go back to our story. So the people lived. And now they're going to continue to journey again. And we'll see how they get to the promised land without upsetting the natives who live in the promised land. Maybe because they just defeated this king, the word will get out that if you block the way of the Israelites, their God will defeat you. That's kind of what they need, isn't it? They need the word to get out that if you block Israel's path, you will be defeated. And I think we'll see that does indeed happen. So let's leave it there. We'll pick up the story in verse 10 in chapter 21 of Numbers. Let's close in prayer. Gracious God, thank you for this day. Thank you for watching over the Israelites. Watch over us today until we meet again. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Those of you joining me online, I appreciate it. Those of you watching this later, I pray that you have a blessed day also. It will be a good day in the Lord, and we will all see you later. God's blessings. Bye.